Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So, picture this, the final credits of that gripping true crime documentary roll. You're on the couch with friends, mentally processing everything you just saw. The evidence, the behavior, the sheer strangeness of it all. Then, the debate kicks off. One friend declares, he was clearly a psychopath. No way. Another counters, that was a total sociopath. The argument goes back and forth, fueled more by movie tropes than actual facts. Eventually, all eyes turn to you. Maybe because you've got a background in mental health, or maybe just because you're the one who always looks things up. But here's the truth I had to confront in that moment. Even with training, these terms are notoriously slippery. We hear them used interchangeably every day. But when you really stop to think about it, what is the fundamental difference? Is it about violence? Manipulation? Or something deeper wired into the very fabric of a person's mind and life story? If you've ever found yourself wondering that, you're exactly where I was. And that's what we're devoting today's entire video to, a meticulous, nuanced breakdown. Welcome to our channel, where we bridge the gap between complex medical science and your everyday curiosity. We talk about mental health frameworks, practical self-improvement strategies, and holistic wellness, always grounding our content in research and real-world clinical experience. We put out deep dive videos like this every week. If you're ready to have those pop culture myths dismantled and replaced with clearer understanding, hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow. And more importantly, subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss one of our explorations. Today's journey is a long one, over 5,000 words of detailed analysis, so get comfortable. We're heading straight into the labyrinth of the human psyche. Part 1. Setting the stage, beyond the labels. First, let's be crystal clear. Psychopath and sociopath are not official diagnostic terms in the current DSM-5, the manual used by mental health professionals. The clinical diagnosis you'll find is antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. Think of ASPD as the broad umbrella. Within that spectrum, psychopathy and sociopathy represent two distinct, though often overlapping, profiles or presentations. They're like two different flavors of the same complex condition, each with its own recipe of nature and nurture. Understanding this distinction isn't about armchair diagnosing criminals. It's about understanding fundamental human behavior patterns, how they form, how they manifest, and why they persist. This stuff matters, so if you're finding value, drop a comment below with the word mind map. Let me know you're following along. Part 2. The Psychopathic Blueprint, a study in neurological difference. Let's start with the archetype that often captures the public's imagination, the psychopath. The dictionary definition versus the reality. Oxford defines a psychopath as someone with a serious personality disorder involving a lack of care for others' feelings, absence of remorse, and potentially cruel tendencies. But this only scratches the surface. The prevailing theory in neuropsychiatry suggests that psychopathy is rooted primarily in neurobiology. The famous saying, "psychopaths are born," points toward a strong genetic and neurological predisposition. The brain under the microscope. Research using fMRI scans paints a fascinating picture. Key areas show significant differences. The amygdala. This is our brain's threat and fear radar. In psychopathic individuals, it's often underresponsive. Imagine watching a horrifying, violent scene. Most people's amygdalas would light up like a Christmas tree, triggering aversion, anxiety, or distress. A psychopath's amygdala might show barely a flicker. They can remain dispassionately calm, or even find it intellectually interesting or amusing. This deficit also severely impacts emotional learning and empathy. The prefrontal cortex and paralimbic system. These regions are crucial for impulse control, moral reasoning, planning, and emotional regulation. In psychopathy, there's often reduced activity and connectivity here. It's like having a high-powered engine, desires, goals, with faulty brakes, conscience, foresight of consequences, and a broken steering wheel, empathy. A strange sensory clue, olfactory issues. Surprisingly, studies have linked higher psychopathy scores to a reduced ability to distinguish between different smells. This might seem random, but it underscores that we're looking at a fundamental neurological wiring difference that affects even basic sensory processing. So, are they purely born? It's a blueprint, not an absolute destiny. The genetic and neurological predisposition sets the stage, but environment can influence how the script is played out. Spotting the patterns early. This isn't hostile. Trust is for fools, and you must take what you need. Key differentiators in psychology and behavior. The conscience, damaged, not missing. This is the biggest distinction. A sociopath is not conscience-free. They often have a weakened, fragmented, or selectively applied conscience. They might feel genuine remorse for hurting a family member or a pet, someone they've formed a bond with. But that remorse is easily overridden by rage, impulse, or survival instinct. Their empathy is limited to their in-group. Impulsivity and volatility. While a psychopath plots, a sociopath often reacts. Their crimes and harmful actions are far more likely to be impulsive, messy, and high risk. A heated argument escalates to sudden violence. A theft is opportunistic, with little planning. This lack of premeditation makes them more likely to be caught. Social and professional life. They struggle to maintain a stable, normal facade long-term. Their impulsivity and emotional volatility make holding down a conventional job difficult. They might operate on the fringes, getting by through grifting, scams, or low-level crime. While they can form real, albeit chaotic and dysfunctional, attachments, these relationships are often stormy, codependent, and marked by extreme loyalty mixed with extreme betrayal. Self-image and outlook. They often see themselves as victims, rebels, or outsiders justified in their actions against a world that wronged them. Their anger is closer to the surface, and their emotional responses, while inappropriate, are more recognizable as human emotion, just amplified and poorly controlled. Is there treatment for sociopathy? The prognosis is slightly better than for psychopathy, precisely because the capacity for attachment and guilt exists. Intensive, long-term therapy, like dialectical behavior therapy adapted for ASPD, can help manage impulsivity and anger. Medications might be used to stabilize mood or reduce aggression. However, the major barrier is lack of insight and motivation. They often don't see themselves as needing to change. Treatment is most successful when it's not voluntary, but is part of a structured, consistent program, like a court-mandated intervention, that provides immediate, tangible consequences for behavior. We're covering so much ground today, and I know it's a lot to take in. This is the kind of in-depth content we live for. If you're finding it valuable, please take a second to share this video with one friend who loves psychology or true crime analysis. Sharing truly is the best way to support the channel. Part 4. The side-by-side comparison and the critical overlap. Let's crystallize the differences with a direct comparison before tackling the crucial caveat. Features psychopath, sociopath. Primary origin, neurological/biological predisposition, environmental trauma/dysfunction. Conscience profoundly absent or inert. No guilt. Weak, inconsistent, but present. Can feel remorse. Emotional capacity shallow, simulated emotions. Cold. Volatile, intense, but real emotions. Hot-headed. Social bonds superficial, instrumental, parasitic. Chaotic, possessive, but can be genuine within a circle. Impulsivity low. Actions are goal-oriented and planned. Very high. Acts on emotion and opportunity. Criminal behavior calculated, meticulous, low risk. Reckless, spontaneous, high risk. Career/public life can excel and appear normal, even charismatic. Unstable, fringe, struggles with authority and routine. Self-view grandiose, entitled, superior. Justified victim, outsider, anti-hero. The vital overlap. Why the confusion exists. They both fall under the ASPD diagnosis. They both exhibit disregard for the law and social norms, deceitfulness and manipulation, aggression and irritability, reckless disregard for safety, irresponsibility, lack of remorse. In childhood, both might be labeled as having conduct problems. The lines are spectral, not binary. You can have someone with a strong biological predisposition, psychopath, whose traits are exacerbated by a terrible upbringing. You can have someone from a horrific background, sociopath, who develops such profound brain changes that they appear conscience-free. The pure versions are extremes on a continuum. Pop culture examples, used with caution. Psychopath example. Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. He operates on a chilling, immoral code. His violence is dispassionate, calculated, and philosophical. He is a force of nature, not a product of rage. Sociopath example, Hotch from Breaking Bad. He is fiercely loyal to his family, a genuine bond. But his pride, ego, and temper lead to catastrophic, impulsive decisions. His remorse is evident, but always subsumed by his next explosive reaction. So, back to that couch debate after the documentary. The answer is often, it's complicated. The individual likely exhibits traits from both categories, leaning more heavily toward one pole. About labeling kids, but understanding risk factors. Children who exhibit callous unemotional (CU) traits, a profound lack of empathy, absence of guilt, shallow emotions, are at higher risk. They might engage in instrumental aggression, bullying to get a toy, not out of anger, and show a startling lack of response to fearful expressions in others. They don't connect with social rewards like praise or affection in the same way. By adolescence, these traits can solidify into a diagnosis of conduct disorder with CU traits, a strong precursor to ASPD with psychopathic features. The psychopath in the wild, life, crime, and careers. Social relationships. Don't imagine a snarling, isolated monster. Psychopaths can be charming, engaging, and excellent at simulating human connection. The key word is simulate. They form parasitic or symbiotic relationships, connections that exist to serve their needs. They study emotions like a foreign language and learn to speak it fluently without ever truly feeling it. The bond is a tool, and once its usefulness expires, so does the facade of caring. The dopamine driver. Why are they so driven to manipulate and conquer? Neuroscience points to the reward system. Psychopaths may have an overreactive dopamine response. Winning, dominating, pulling the strings provides an intense, rewarding high. Manipulation isn't just a means to an end. The act itself can be chemically rewarding. Crime and consequence. When a psychopath engages in criminal activity, it's often highly planned, calculated, and risk-averse. They are the masterminds, thinking several steps ahead, with contingencies in place. Remorse is absent. They might regret getting caught, but not the harm caused. This cold, efficient approach is why they are overrepresented among serial killers and high financial fraud criminals. The corporate psychopath. This is crucial. Most psychopaths aren't violent criminals. They thrive in environments where their traits are rewarded. A controversial but often cited study by Kevin Dutton suggested professions like CEO, lawyer, surgeon, media personality, and police officer can attract individuals with psychopathic traits. Why? These fields value ruthlessness, charm under pressure, decisiveness without emotional baggage, and a high tolerance for risk. They can climb corporate ladders by being strategically charming and utterly unflinching in cutthroat decisions. Behavioral hallmarks you might notice. Supreme, but fragile. Confidence. They project unwavering self-belief, focusing almost exclusively on potential rewards, which can drive impressive effort. However, if thwarted, their response can be extreme and vindictive. The boredom factor. A short attention span for the mundane is common. They crave stimulation and can abruptly abandon projects, people, or goals once the novelty wears off, resembling aspects of ADHD, but driven by a need for excitement, not distractibility. The twisted mindset. Their moral and emotional compass points in a unique direction. In casual conversation, they might make a shockingly cruel joke, express bizarre fascinations, or reveal a profound indifference to suffering in a way that feels off to others. Pathological lying. Lying is a first language, not a last resort. It's done effortlessly, guiltlessly, and often for no clear gain, sometimes just to maintain a sense of control or superiority. The lie itself is the point. Is there treatment? This is the hard part. Traditional talk therapy, which relies on emotional connection and a desire to change, often fails. The most promising approaches are multimodal, targeting behavior, social skills, and thinking patterns from a young age. Think structured programs in secure settings, not weekly counseling. Medication is rarely a primary solution and is usually only considered to manage co-occurring issues like aggression or impulsivity. The core lack of conscience and empathy is notoriously resistant to change. That's a deep look at the psychopathic profile. But before we move to sociopathy, I have to ask, is this aligning with what you've wondered about? Are there examples from media or history coming to mind? Pause for a second and comment below. I read every single one. And if your brain is appreciating this deep dive, show the algorithm some love with a thumbs up. Part 3. The Sociopathic Pathway, Forged in Fire. Now, let's contrast this with sociopathy. If psychopathy is often viewed as nature, sociopathy is overwhelmingly framed as nurture. The term points to antisocial behavior arising from profound environmental shaping, the crucible of development. A sociopath's path is typically linked to severe childhood trauma, abuse, neglect, or growing up within a chaotic, criminal, or violently dysfunctional subculture. Their brain's wiring might have started normally, but chronic stress, fear, and a survivalist environment physically alter the developing brain. They learn that the world is. Part 5. Your takeaways and our mission. What was your biggest takeaway today? Was it the brain-skin differences? The corporate psychopath concept? The nuance between a missing and a damaged conscience? Let's get a discussion going. Sound off in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts, your questions, and what you'd like us to deep dive into next. Understanding these distinctions isn't about giving anyone a pass for terrible behavior. It's about moving from fearful, simplistic labels to a more informed, if more complex, comprehension of human psychology. It helps us understand risk, the limits of rehabilitation, and the profound interplay between our biology and our life stories. If this video added a new layer of understanding to your worldview, if it made you think, then my team and I have done our job. Here's how you can ensure we keep doing it. 1. Like this video. It's the simplest way to tell YouTube this content has value. 2. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. We drop content like this weekly, and you don't want to miss our next deep dive into the mind, body, and wellness. 3. Share it. Tag a friend you had that psychopath versus sociopath debate with. Spread the knowledge. 4. Comment. The community we're building here is based on curiosity and respect. Your voice is part of it. Your engagement is what allows us to dedicate the hundreds of hours it takes to research and produce comprehensive guides like this one. We have a whole library of content designed to empower your understanding of health and the human condition. If you found this breakdown helpful, we're confident you'll get immense value from our next video, which explores, e.g., the neuroscience of anxiety, why your brain thinks you're in danger when you're not. It's linked on screen now and waiting for you. Thank you so much for investing your time and attention here today. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and always seek understanding. Until next time, I wish you a healthy and insightful journey.